What's up, everybody? AJ here, coming at you solo for this intro. Apologies for the not so brief hiatus. Both Brax and I have been on the road. Brax has been busy making money, getting things prepped, nesting for when his baby comes in July. But he'll be hitting the road, shooting Total Archery Challenge in Utah next month. Super psyched for that. I actually just got back from Seven Springs, Pennsylvania, where I shot Total Archery Challenge and doing a little bit of urban hunting on Long Island. I've also got a brand new bow that hasn't been released yet that I'm super excited to share with all of you guys. So stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed because we're going to be covering all of those things in the next 2 to 3 episodes at different times. But we'll have some guests on to talk about those things as well. But for this week, we've got a super special guest, somebody who's been a friend of Brax and I for a couple of years now. We've been shooting his stabilizers and his equipment for that same amount of time. Hanno from Quattro Stabilizers on this week's episode. Hanno and his brother Christian are just salt of the earth, good people, younger guys that have really been making a name and making waves in the industry and just producing some absolutely badass products. Could not be more stoked for them. We dive in deep into what makes their stabilizers special, what went into building this business, and its potential move here to the United States, because some of you might or may not know that they're actually based out of South Africa, which is where all those bars are made right now. So I'll save that for this episode, but Brax and I are excited to get back in studio together. We'll catch you guys next week, and we can't wait to share with you guys all the things that we've got going on, as well as some updates on the dialed Arxos sights that are going into production, literally being assembled as we speak. So for those of you that got your pre-orders in before they shut down the site, congratulations. And for those of you anxiously awaiting for those orders to be opened up again, we've probably got some good news there. So stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already, and enjoy this week's episode. Excited to see you guys again next week. Catch you guys next time.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Bow Nerds podcast. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to whatever time zone and what day you're listening. Today we've got special guest Hanno from Quattro Archery. In case you haven't seen probably some of the nicest stabilizers on the market, Hanno is the one that completely destroys a perfect stabilizer. So we're going to break right into it and let him kind of introduce himself, what he does, why he does it, and where he came from.
Thanks, Braxton. Yeah, it's been a wild ride. Thanks for having me, first of all. It's such an honor to actually sit with you two guys. I know we've done a lot of business and a lot of DMs and stuff on Instagram and so on, chatting back and forth with, well, actually, AJ and I met first. I actually made a joke. I think it was just a comment, excuse me, on Instagram, where I asked him, listen, when are we going to do your custom dentro? We need to put your logo on it. And he was like, yeah, sure, that's no problem. And we obviously jumped on the opportunity to put the Knights of the Apex branding on the wood. And I didn't really expect a review from AJ, but he really did like the short little stabilizer that we did for him in the custom engraving. Yeah, and from there on, I think we have probably one of the best internet relationships or friendships that I've had from date. And then also from Braxton's side, we've built you a couple of hacks and stabilizers, which came out pretty awesome. So yeah, I'm the owner and the founder of Quattro Archery. I started this whole business when I was still on varsity. I studied mechanical engineering for a few years and then eventually switched over to industrial engineering. I think I just have a brain for business more than just your general mechanical engineering designing stuff. And part of my reason for starting the business was at that stage I struggled with some of the products, especially stabilizers, obviously. And I made a deal with myself, if I can design something that we can use on the tournament field and then also incorporate all the knowledge and stuff that I pick up in class, put it down on the product. And yeah, I've eventually done just that. and I was able to pay for my studies with the prototype products and stuff that we eventually put into production. And before I knew it, I had a business on my hands, and I tried to manage both the business and my studies, which was a roller coaster, to be honest. And yeah, I guess we just listened to what the guys needed, what they wanted from the market, and went from there on. And it's actually the American market that guided what we produce um, at the end of the day. Obviously, the Dentro, the wooden stabilizer, is something pretty unique. Um, that was just a wild idea that I took a big swing at. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but luckily we have some good wood here in South Africa, so we could squeeze out some pretty good performance from that. And yeah, it's most of my stuff gets designed because it's something that I really struggle with, or somebody else sees a demand for something better, and I try to jump on it as quickly as possible. Obviously, time is of the essence, especially in the business world. The market is ever changing, so it's not standing still or not waiting for anybody. So if AJ asks me, listen, we need to develop a thumb peg for something like the Carters, something a bit more refined than just your normal thumb barrel, then I'm on it. Sometimes it takes a bit longer because of the product development, the availability on the machines, and then obviously the prototypes that we need to test. But yeah, it's all of it started with love for archery, and obviously to launch projectiles at a more accurate and more consistent way than known before. So yeah, that's basically where I slot in for now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, you guys definitely caught. I was following you guys actually before you reached out, Hanno. I remember seeing those wood stabilizers. I think the Bomars were actually running them when they went over there and did that first trip to South Africa. And yeah, you guys reached out, and we've talked a lot over the years and become the closest of internet friends. And excited for you to come over to the States and visit so I could finally shake your hand in person. But you changed the way I thought about stabilizers. You know, I think a lot of guys, especially like speaking for a lot of East Coast tree stand hunters, it's kind of just like an accessory that helps, but it's not really vital. At least a lot of people still to this day don't think it's very important. It's just, you know, to kill some vibration, to balance the bow a little, and it only really matters after 40 yards. But you sent me a couple of different setups to play with that I've run at Total Archery Challenges, and I've been using your guys' stabilizer ever since we started talking, and it's changed not just how I'm shooting, but people don't realize that the stabilizers and your setup and the weights and the back bars, you can actually change the tune of the bow. And that was something that I was naive to, and I think a lot of people still don't realize that you can actually change the entire like harmonics of the bow and how the bow's performing just with their stabilizer setup.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things that most of the guys do not realize yet, especially if you haven't, you know, dipped your toes into tuning your bow yourself. Then you don't get to see the results through the paper, or if you changed something and then looking for a specific result. Um, I mean, if you run a sidebar or just any stabilizer setup, my end goal for the guys is um, to completely eliminate torque on your hand. So obviously to balance the bow, but it's also I also know that there's like a golden window so that you can pull off a proper shot, especially if you are shooting over 50 yards or 40 yards. Then there's like a 7 to 13 second window that you need to make stuff happen, and the stabilizers obviously do not only reduce the vibration, but also save you that time of fighting with the bow to get it on target or to get the pin just to go and stick to where you want it. So actually, my biggest problem switching from a target rig to a hunting rig was obviously the weight. So when I was into target archery a few years back, going from that heavy rig to the lighter one, you obviously need to stack weights, and you're used to this well-balanced setup. And I obviously want that in a hunting bow as well, because it makes some sort of sense. If I can use this analogy, you only have one shot on an animal, but on on a tournament, you have a few arrows to make up a score or to keep the stuff together. So I'd say on a hunting rig, it's almost just as critical as on a target bow. Um, and yeah, obviously experimenting with all this stuff. I also do help a lot of the guys from the tree stand hunters who think it's a redundant accessory or just something that needs to be included in the package, to the guys in the West who really pulls off some crazy shots, to help them prescribe a perfect length tailored to their axle to axle of their bow, um, their draw length, and then obviously the distance in where they need to perform. Another factor that I also take into account is what's the terrain like. If it's a dense bush that you have to encounter now and then, you obviously need to move around. So you can't walk around with a 15-inch and a 12-inch stabilizer setup. It makes things difficult, and you also need to stay stealthy. Sorry. I probably needed to apologize for my broken English before we started. I'm going to trip over my tongue a few times.
Not at all.
So
You are the
it's
first South African on the podcast. So cheers.
thanks. Um, but yeah, it's more than just vibration dampening, and it's also more than just balancing your bow out. We obviously want to incorporate both of them as far as we can, and as well as we can. Obviously, I want to give the guys a complete package, and then also sell them the right stuff from the start. Um, so listening to the guys, what they're hunting, where they're hunting, how they are built, like what's their setup, what's their end goal. There's a lot of levers that you can pull to end up with a package, but from the sales figures and stuff, I've seen some trends and stuff come through. You won't actually believe it, but my 12-inch and 8-inch stabilizers is the best sellers of all time. I thought it would be something like a 10-inch and an 8-inch, because that's like the best of both worlds. Getting some decent stability, get your bow nice and upright, stabilized. But I have this tendency where the guys go longer out in front and then just have the short side stabilizer to counter the quiver weight or the sight weight. But yeah, I think with Dial's design, they will probably eliminate the imbalance even more. And with quivers getting tighter and closer to the bow, I think we will see in the near future that we are going back to just a single front stabilizer. But in some cases, if you really struggle to tune your bow or get the arrow to fly straight, I start kicking out the sidebar, start eliminating a lot of the counterweight, and see what it does when the bow just leans out to the other side. I know, AJ, you have experimented a bit with this, especially when you paper tune a bit, and you just can't figure out what the hell's going on. Shim to every single place on the bow that's possible. Sometimes you need to take the sidebar off. Other times you can eliminate that problem with your sidebar. So it's really a 50-50, but I'm glad to give the guys an opportunity to like build a setup with a front and side stabilizer to give them the opportunity to pull off a better shot.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I went through switching over to the newer PSE platforms this year, tuning the new bows on the. I was very reluctant to try a back bar, and you talked me into it successfully, and I never looked back. Actually, with a 15-inch front and I think I was running a 12 or a 10-inch back, and I shot that at the Utah TAC, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago now, and cleaned all three, didn't lose an arrow the entire weekend on with just it was a 31 or a 32-inch bow, and so I was sold on
running a back bar. I was like, if I can hike around the mountains here, I don't have an excuse for walking a couple hundred yards to my tree stand on the East Coast and not running it. It's and I haven't looked back, but what you said is so true about, on the PSCs leading up to this year, I would use the back bar to tune out some of that natural torque in the system. And then this year it was actually the opposite. I had to remove. We're running the and you're one of the partners for Nodin's bows. On those bows, we're running the 30-inch bows, and they did not like a lot of weight on the left side. And so now I have just a short little 6-inch stubby stabilizer on the left side, just literally offsetting the weight of my quiver. But it is crazy how much. If you haven't done it before, try experimenting with different angles, weights, things like that, and shoot through paper. And it's crazy the difference that it can make. And it can help you really get a more consistent grip, which I think a lot of people don't realize.
Absolutely. I don't know if Braxton wants to chip in, but um, yeah, I've seen. It also depends on the geometry of the bows. I mean, that changes each and every year. PSE and Poet has given us the lower stabilizer mount, which I think helps a lot, especially with the internal dampening. That helps to soak up a bit more of the vibration, and it's something that you have to play with. Because we are all built different, so it's really difficult to tell a guy, listen, you need a 12-inch or you need a 15-inch out front. It's difficult, but I try to help them as far as I can based from past feedback and experiences helping other guys out. And it's actually insane how it changes with all the other accessories and stuff that the companies launches, and then also how the bows change in design. Um, Ultimately, I think if the stabilizers can help you achieve a more consistent grip, then it will automatically resolve your pin float, make that a bit smoother as well. So, like I said, there's a lot of factors, and trying to pinpoint which one is going to do what is a bit of a headache. It's like seeing the guys asking a formula for the correct weight ratio. The weight ratio thing is something that you have to play with, and you can only get a perfect setup if you put in the time. There's no two ways about it. So I try to tell the guys, listen, move your weight around. We give you removable weights so that you can experiment with this stuff. And then also I've seen some crazy stuff if you switch out your releases, especially pin float wise. I've switched between a thumb release and my index finger release a lot during the past few months. Those two releases like a lot more weight up front, because I'm in control of when the shot goes off. So I wanted to sort of anchor the bow to the target, and then I can just keep applying pressure, and boom, the shot breaks off. Whereas the hinge, you actually want it to float a bit so that you can give yourself time so that that mechanism can go through its process of breaking through the shear. And what I found is it's a lot easier on your left-hand shoulder, given that you're a right-handed archer, that when you move your weight to the back, then it's easier on your shoulder and you get a bit more of that smoother float, and you do not have to rush the shot. So it's small stuff like that, but you only get that experience from playing with the different setups.
Yeah. I had one. It was a Hoyt RX1. I had it set up front bar, back bar, and it was shooting lights out. And I switched the string. I swapped out string, retuned it, and I could not shoot it for the life of me. I was like, what is going on? And as simple as just changing the screen and having to retune it, and I think I changed arrows. I actually had to take off my sidebar, and after that it tuned just fine and shot way better. And I was like, what in the world? Like that was when I realized that the sidebar isn't just there to, one, look cool, and two, just offset the quiver. But that was my experience with the back bar, and I haven't thrown one yet on my new setup this year. I need to, because I feel like I am experiencing quite a bit of too much weight in the front and not enough in the back to kind of hold it out. I feel like I'm kind of fighting that, but I haven't thrown a bracket on to hold one in the back, which I need to for sure.
Absolutely. I can't recommend it enough. Obviously, I'm biased with this whole setup thing. I want the guys to obviously buy a sidebar with the front stabilizer, but still, we see a lot of guys who buy just the front stabilizer, and like 2 or 3 weeks goes by, and then he purchases the sidebar or the bracket as well, just to complete the package. It's I felt with the newer bows, like on my V3X, where you can put your sight through the riser, then if you run it without a quiver, I can still get away with like a 10-inch. The whole setup feels nicely balanced. Um, but for me, if I get a bow, I smack two stabilizers on there from the start. Something that I really want to look into is developing just a short bracket for the weight risers so that you can screw it to the side of the stabilizer, because we have a lot of guys who only buys the set, which is basically your front and your back bar without the bracket, and then buy the weight SL mount. Um, but I've put in a lot of time in the Vero mount so that we can reduce vibration just through the mounting position, and so that's something that I'll need to pull you in on Braxton so that you can test it out for us. But yeah, I think I'll give attention to that in the next few weeks or so. I don't know when you guys are gonna launch the podcast, but I think by the time this is, then you might be having one of the prototypes to test out.
Yeah, I wouldn't complain about messing around with it at all. It'd be nice. Yeah, because I'm having to. I mean, the main hunt I'm focused on right now is my bison hunt, and it's going to be spot and stock. It's going to be cold. It's going to be, wearing gloves and a lot of gear. So it's going to be trying to figure out the best setup that doesn't snag all over me. Doesn't, trying to keep it simple and clean, but also in case I got to take that 70-yard shot on a bison, it's, I'm able to hold that. And if it's windy, so I don't know what to expect on a January freezing cold hunt, but we're gonna try to make the setup perfect. So I'm gonna be probably DMing you a lot, asking for some stuff and advice on what I need to do to make my setup a little bit better. But no, you're a wizard when it comes to stabilizers for sure.
Well, that
Absolutely, I'll
helps
be.
me with the when it comes to like time to hunt too, right? Because like a lot of people, you're totally steady when you're just on a flat range and you can maybe run just a short front stabilizer, but when you're full draw on an animal, all of a sudden you got the caffeine kicking in, it seems like, and you're just all over the place. And I know for me that's helped me the last couple of years, just being more steady when it comes game time. But there's always a trade-off, right? Because if you start running too much weight and too much bar and stuff's running around underneath you, like if you're in a tree stand, it's harder to track those too. So finding that balance for guys is so important too. And yeah, Hanno, just like what Brack said, I mean, you've been a wizard with helping find that balance and work with those different setups.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to help you, Braxton, too. But luckily, we have a lot of time still.
Yeah.
We also have some new Vulcan Pro bars. We swapped up the carbon. We still have the exposed carbon weave, but we've tweaked the way we weave it. It's a lot more balanced in terms of the stiffness and so on. And then we will most probably stick with the same diameter for now, because we're getting some really good results in terms of performance and then slicing through the wind at the same time. Um, but yeah, I'll definitely be at your service to help out, knock out that bison setup. And yeah, obviously it will be the perfect proving ground for the new Vulcan Pros as well. So we can tailor-make that setup for that specific hunt, so that we can make sure there's not too much weight on your bow, but when the push comes to the shove and you are on full draw, the adrenaline's pumping, your heart is sitting in your mouth, that you can still swallow it and see your sight picture settle, so that you can still make that shot. So typically with a hunt like that, I'd obviously you're gonna walk your flipping butts off. So I'd go for the perfect balance between not having too much weight on, and also you mentioned it's going to be like freezing cold as well. To make the bow not too heavy. Obviously, with colder muscles, you're not performing at your peak, so your bow might feel a lot heavier than it actually is. So going for something like a 12-inch or even a 15-inch, if you know it's going to be up and down a mountain without any brushes and stuff like that, tricky obstacles that you need to go over too much, then I'll go as long as possible. 15-inch at the front, 12-inch at the back, and that also depends on where you're mounting your 15-inch. Otherwise, we can run two 12-inches for that sake, if you want to mount it to the bottom. Which is actually quite cool because it creates this cool pendulum effect, which I think helps a lot with the sight picture at the end of the day, and not only with soaking up the vibration. So there's definitely that. I also want to configure our website so that the guys can order two of the same lengths together to build their package. Like in this instance where you need two 12-inches, instead of forcing the guys to buy something longer and something shorter. So if you feel the need for two 8-inches or whatever the case might be, because that piece of riser, moving it another, I think 2 or 3 inches in front of your traditional mounting position is obviously changing the way the guys put their setups together. I've had a few guys who ordered a 6.5-inch stabilizer, put that out in front, and then run their 8-inch as the sidebar, and they look perfectly fine. It actually looks normal for that type of riser build. So obviously that your PSEs and your weights will perform flawlessly in that type of environment, or constructing a setup like that where you run something shorter in front, but it's actually in reality longer.
Yeah, no, it really does make a huge difference, that lower spot for the stabilizer on the Hoyts. It's like, what was I doing the other day? I was swapping my dentro up and down just to see how it felt, and I almost felt like without having that sidebar, having it down lower, I couldn't hold it as steady as bringing it up to the upper one. But I think if I drop it back down to the bottom and then have a sidebar, it's going to help kind of counteract that stability, to where, like, I felt like I was wanting to just drop the front of the bow way too much whenever it was sitting on the bottom. But as soon as I moved it to the top, it felt a little bit better, but it didn't feel as, like, the base didn't feel as solid, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I've actually seen that on a few target rigs as well. I don't know why the manufacturers do this, but they only give you a lower rear stabilizer mounting position, and not something that's directly in line with the top mount as well. If you have that full mounting positions, obviously on some of the risers, it's just not possible because your string stopper is sitting on that position. But I mean, even if you just drop it an inch lower than your string stopper position, then you'd be able to experiment with way more combinations that will end up in a killer of a setup. what I've seen on the target bows is where the guys actually move their mount, their sidebar mount, to the upper top stabilizer mounting hole, and then bringing their stabilizer off from there on. And I've tried it a few times, and the bow is super stable. I think it counters a lot of the center weight that's moving backwards when you go to full draw. But I'm not sure, and that's actually something that I want to run through when I'm doing more of the prototype Vulcan Pros in the lab. So we're basically going to put sensors and stuff on the bow so that we can see how it behaves when the shot goes off, to what direction it kicks in, and just general harmonic frequencies and stuff that we gather data on. But yeah, I obviously want to understand where to mount what so that I can pass it on to you guys. I mean, we have all the tools and stuff to figure this stuff out. So if I stumble upon something to make it a bit easier or to give you a clear answer, I'd be happy to share it with the guys. I've been so freaking busy that I couldn't really utilize my YouTube channel really that much over the past few months. But if I really do come up with something that is like the better than sliced bread, then I'll definitely give you guys a heads up.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't doubt that you're freaking busy. I do not doubt that at all.
We're going to just keep working on getting you here to the States, and then we'll be able to help you out more.
That's right.
Absolutely. I think that is the next step for me, is obviously to go and check out the states where we want to put up shop. Obviously, the business is already registered in Texas, which makes it nice. It made all of our transactions a lot smoother. We got a few issues with the local payment gateways, which was a real headache. But once I got the business registered in the States, it was like a floodgate opening, because it's so much easier for the guys to order. And then obviously, still being on this side, I'm working on some cheaper shipping options for you guys, which I also know is a big hurdle for me to jump over. But moving to the States, that will automatically resolve that problem. And then just piece by piece, move all my equipment and stuff to the States so that we can build all of these stabilizers with American material, American machines, and yeah, with American money as well. So going fully made in the USA is something that I really want to work on. So I'll definitely let you know where we end up with. But that's obviously what I'm planning to do in the next month or so, is to come over. I obviously want to check out Florida, because I know AJ swears by the weather and the overall state of Tampa Bay. So and then also I've seen some beautiful places in Utah as well. So I might as well just come over to your side as well, Braxton.
Yeah.
But it's a really painstakingly process to get everything certified. There's a lot of paperwork, so I'm doing it as fast as I can. But yeah, only time will tell when we can move over.
That's awesome. Oh, so you're planning on coming over within the next month or two, if it's possible.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Awesome.
It's something that I've been planning for quite some time. I think I've let AJ know, like, listen, man, I'm coming in the next month or so, and then something pops up, and then I have to push it on another month. But yeah, it's definitely happening between June and July. I have to put my foot down at some stage and just come over and yeah, check the place out.
Yeah. So are you planning on moving over permanently, like yourself, or moving the company and staying there in South Africa and running it from there and having it manufactured here?
So my my personality is well, will not allow me to pass down the manufacturing to somebody else. Um, I think that's makes the different makes the business tick at this stage, is that we are the guys developing everything from start to finish. I'm the guy answering the emails, chatting to the clients, customers who are asking questions, and then also obviously handling all the manufacturing from start to finish. So for me to carry on like we do now, I'll definitely have to move out permanently to the States. But yeah, I do not mind at all. I think the US has a lot cooler toys than what we get here in South Africa. And then obviously being inside the market and not dislocated like now will make a lot of things a lot easier for us as well. So I'm actually pushing to move myself and my brother over because he's the other director of Quattro Archery. Um, and then yeah, we will commence with all the manufacturing on that side. So I've been to the States twice, and I will definitely not mind moving there. I love the culture. I love the bigger is better mentality. So it's something that I really look forward to, and my my mindset is like, if we can build that type of products here, we can do it even better in the States. So it will make definitely a huge difference to the quality, the performance, the distribution, and then obviously our responsiveness to the market as well.
Yeah, and I think you'll hit a right now there's kind of a big wave flooding into made in America with hunting equipment and different products that these companies are coming out with. There's been a big change, I feel like, in the industry as the focus with companies wanting and showing and taking pride in made in USA. And so I think you'll hit the market here and just explode. So if you think you're busy now, I think it's going to get a lot busier.
Absolutely. I've seen this trend picking up. I actually have done my final year project on the business, and I picked up this change to happen around COVID because some of the supply chain lines got stuck or was just not functioning, and so it was impossible for some of the manufacturers to get raw material, or if they machine their stuff in a different country, then obviously they had a big problem. So moving it in-house, closer to yourself, you have more control, obviously, and that's exactly what we are doing now. All the carbon fiber is it's actually now the raw material is American raw material as of now, which is actually cool. And the resin that we use in the carbon is also American made. So I think we are halfway there.
Yeah.
And then obviously all the machining and stuff is happening here in South Africa as well. The only thing I import is the Cerakote because it's only made in America. So that's also American product. And then we are working with the metric system, which is such a huge headache because I can't find the standard screws and stuff here in South Africa. So I need to import that from the UK. I've got a pretty reliable supplier, both in the UK and the US, to supply us with your general bolts for the quick disconnects for the Veros and then the grub screws. So I'll definitely not outsource it to any other country except for South Africa or the States. So yeah, like I said, if we can make it here, we can even build it better on that side.
Yeah.
I'm actually, yeah, might have to figure out a process or two just to speed ramp some of our manufacturing processes. Luckily, with this aerospace engineers handling our carbon now, is they have a huge capacity that we can bank on. So and in the past we had some problems where we are waiting for carbon or waiting for machine to open, And I think I've sorted that out. I've got a few solutions, and we are working on it. Because obviously, if I order something from Lancaster or from Sarasota, I obviously wanted to ship within the next day or two. And at this stage, we are dropping the ball on that. But if we can't stay ahead with the demand for now, I think that's a good problem to have. I mentioned that to AJ just before we started. So, but definitely, we. Sorry for that. I obviously have a few plans and so on to pull you guys in to help me distribute in the US. It's impossible for us to distribute the smaller stuff like weights, quick disconnects, the Vero mounts, and so on at a decent shipping rate. We are subsiding a huge amount of it, and then sometimes we're actually losing on some of the orders, which is it's quite annoying, but I want to service the guys on that side. So yeah, I'll definitely pull you guys in to help me just debunk or just satisfy this huge demand. So before we let all the horses and stuff loose, let's just sort out all my distribution channels.
Yeah, well, we know we've been talking to plenty of people that can help as well. We just had Josh Smith from Montana Knife Company, and he's a big Made in America guy, and he's even getting all of his clothing and the apparel that MKC is selling made over here now too, which has been pretty cool to see happen. And I think people ask all the time, and it's like I'm not like it has to be made here, but I very much want to know where my stuff is made. I have no problem buying my stabilizers from South Africa because I can get you and your brother on the phone, and I know you guys. It's just different than something coming over from some factory somewhere. And a lot of times with these other companies, they don't have the same level of pride in their QC and QA processes, and you get inconsistent products time over time, which is just so different than dealing with a small business like yourself or MKC or some of these other ones that you guys are so involved in what you guys do, and the fact that you're not willing to disconnect yourself from the manufacturing arm of the company, I think says a lot.
Yeah, that just shows everybody that it's you. You are the company, but at the same time, you take so much pride into the company, and I have zero question if I'll be let down. I know when I order a Quattro stabilizer, I know what I'm getting and the quality that it's going to come in.
Absolutely. This is actually being in control of the manufacturing is actually something that I enjoy. I think which makes a huge difference. It's not a number that you are chasing at the end of the month or at the end of each week. So I think in that regard, it's been insane to think that having this thought that you might end up in corporate going you wanted to go into corporate and then ending up with your own business and building all the stuff yourself is actually so much better. I definitely work a lot harder than my friends that work in corporate, but I can definitely say that I enjoy it a lot more. So being in control of all the manufacturing and stuff is actually something that I like, and then also being involved with the end users is something that I also do enjoy, because I know when I sell something to someone, I'm like 90% there of resolving all the issues they had, or they are buying the right stuff from they're buying the right stuff from the start, which makes a huge difference. I do not want to make anybody mad and force them to buy 3 or 4 times. Obviously, I like taking their money, but yeah, if I can help them right from the start, it just feels a lot better. And I can definitely understand why the guys are hammering so much on the Made in America stuff. I mean, if you know the guys personally who builds the stuff, especially in like Montana Knife Company, I've been checking out some of their stuff, and it's insane. I actually told my brother the other day, I feel like Montana Knife Company and Quattro Archery is like going through the same phase. We are just like on opposite sides of the planet, and it's going through the same phases for a very good reason. And I think it's because Josh is also very much involved in every single process, from where the design starts, the feasibility of it, and then selecting the correct materials, right up until where it gets delivered. I've read some of the reviews and stuff on their website. If something gets lost, they replace it right away. And unfortunately for us, we've gone through a few of that exercises in the past, but switching over to FedEx and DHL has helped a lot with not losing or damaging a lot of parcels. But I do not have a problem with replacing them because we have insurance on each and every single package that leaves here. So if you have damaged goods, if you're listening to this, then email us or DM us. I'm happy to replace it for you guys. And then obviously it will the ordering process and the waiting times will get a lot shorter when I move to the States. It will actually be quite fun when I'm there because then I'm running on my own machines, whereas now we only have access to machines. It's not ours entirely, but it's some pretty decent stuff that it costs a lot of money, and I'm also saving up all of our capital to set up shop on that side, which is the most important for now. But yeah, all in all, I think I have a pretty epic job. Shooting a bow each and every day for a living is, I think, very few of us get to do that, and I'm super grateful for that.
Yeah, that's what me and AJ are shooting for.
Yeah, we're working on that, and I can't wait for you guys to get over to the States. Selfishly, so we've got another friend closer, but also, I can stop shipping out those quota thumb pegs on my own. I can just refer everybody to you guys so they can save on shipping. Because, our customers will tell you I'm not the most reliable with boxing stuff up, so I think they're looking forward to you moving over here, too.
That's been another headache that we had is packaging. Because the stabilizers is such an odd size, and we also do not have a lot of suppliers in South Africa that specializes in custom-made boxes and stuff. We eventually moved over to that cotton canvas sleeves and just bubble wrapping every single thing that we can get our hands on, just to mitigate the risk as far as we can. But that's another thing that I look forward to, is just freaking having some cool ass boxes for the quotas and the Veros and even the weights and stuff, just to keep them from scratching against each other and so on. I'm really looking forward to the move.
Well, and a lot of people don't know, and I was naive to this too until we became friends. But like, people don't realize how lucky we have it here in the States as far as like import taxes and things like that go. I know you've ordered some just hunting clothes, and just the import taxes that you guys have to deal with overseas, it literally doubles the cost. You're paying $200 for a set of base layers, like on top of whatever the thing costs, essentially. Like, it's pretty nuts.
Absolutely, and it drives me crazy, because we can't really see a difference that they make with all this tax money and stuff. On stupid stuff like clothing, they are obviously protecting our textile industry, our so-called textile industry. So if we import stuff like First Light or Sitkas or Kuyu camos, then we end up paying 40% import tax. So if something costs you $100, you can almost double what you are budgeting for, because you still have to reckon in shipping, and then sometimes they get crazy, and then they'll bump up that import tax even more. But I think we are lucky as a supplier or a manufacturer in that regard, that 99% of our sales comes from the US, and thankfully there's not a huge gap or incentive that you need to pay for everything imported. Otherwise, we would have been non-existent. So obviously it's to protect the local market. But if we are sitting in the US, then we are local. So then they can do with that just what they want. But at the end of the day, it makes archery really an expensive hobby here in South Africa because everything needs to be imported, except for stabilizers, of course, or anything else that we make. So it's a bit annoying, and then obviously we are such a small drop in this bucket that the manufacturers do not really look after our bow shops like they do with the guys in the States. So we end up getting our bows 2 or 3 months after you guys have it on Instagram. So it's quite redundant for me to do a review video on a new V3X because there's like 1,000 videos before mine. Unless somebody wants some engineering feedback or something on the same boat that they've launched for the 4th time or something like that. It's I think ultimately it's definitely something that we need to push for is getting everything made in the States. I think it will mean a lot, not just only for me but to the customers as well. I mean, it's like almost supporting a friend if you buy an American-made product. So that's definitely the end goal for this business and something that we're really pushing hard for.
I'm excited to see that and have you here, and that way, that way we can actually meet face to face, shake hands, and see everything that goes down at Quattro.
We'll all shoot Total Archery Challenge together next year.
That's right.
Oh yeah, I think we need to. Well, obviously you guys know what courses are epic. So if you can call out a date and a time, then I'll make a plan to be there. It will be so cool to go and shoot one of those tag shoots, and then obviously we can. I can hook you guys up with some awesome hunts and stuff here in South Africa. I think it's going to be a lot different type of hunting than what you guys are used to in the States. And obviously we do not have a lot of hunting laws and seasons that you have to abide to. So I'll definitely make a plan so that we can swap out a tag shoot for a hunt or something like that.
Sounds like Texas.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
But we have some exciting new products coming up, especially AJ. If AJ asks me for something, then I tend to jump on it right away because I know he's seeing a gap. So we are actually starting with the prototyping, I think, in next week. So I'll send you both one of the prototypes because we actually need to put a lot of advanced wear and tear through these products so that I know they are fit for shops and every single guy who's gonna work with them. I can't mention too much, but I've sent some of the pictures and stuff to AJ already, so he's know what's waiting. I think we should not stop with stabilizers. I actually have a few more ideas. I think Dial has done a pretty good job with the site. I wanted to order one for our hunting season now, but I don't think it will be in time, and it will be a lot easier to just pick it up in the US when I come over.
Yeah, well, I've got a prototype bow and we've got prototype sights, so we'll have a lot of prototype stuff to put them on and test everything together.
I think there needs to be a term for something that's everything prototyped out.
Unreliable,
I'll think of
I
something.
think is the term.
3D printed.
3D, yeah.
I got a 3D setup. takes 3D to a whole new level.
Nice.
Everybody thinks prototype is like Batman or James Bond. Usually it's like, no, you're figuring out what's wrong, and it's barely staying together.
Yeah.
I think there's something cool about testing out the prototyping, the prototype parts and products. Obviously, that's part of my job description, and well, I think the most important, the most fun part of this prototyping process is the destructive testing. We've broken a lot of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, everybody's feedback well in advance before making it to the market is super important, and that's why I'm drawing you guys in so that I can get some fresh eyes on it. Obviously, I have something in my mind that will work perfectly for me, but it might not be tailored to you or to Braxton. So I think it's awesome, and you're like getting the new stuff way in advance before it hits the market. So I love seeing those videos from Matthews where they're busy with the prototype bows where it's like in bare aluminium. Because you never get to see those bows in that state. I don't know if yours that you now have, is it also that silver color?
I'm not quite at that level yet, but yeah, but people don't realize with the prototyping, like I know Brax and I went through this too. Like you have to work with people that can see through the imperfections and realize like what the end state is, like what the goal is. Because I remember showing the first, I've gone to work with a couple of companies now and showing the first prototypes to people, and like they didn't get it. And then they see the production model and they're like, oh, that's so cool. And it's like, I showed you 90% of this a couple of months ago, but people just have a hard time. And maybe it's just cause like, I don't know, being involved with the process or something. It is super rewarding getting to work with guys like you and Dialed and everybody else to give that end user feedback. But yeah, it is funny because I think, everybody wants to get their hands on the prototype, but like not everybody realizes like what a prototype is and what goes into like actually making a production model.
Yeah, some of the times it's something that you actually have to put back together because it's falling apart, but it's going through that process that doesn't happen in the field. And you, I don't think you guys realize how valuable that feedback is because like I said, you can have a design um, in my head, and it will work for me, but it might not work for somebody else. Um, I'm deviating a bit from my point, but it's I think it's a fun process to go through, and yeah, it's super important as well because you do not want to make those changes on the fly after you have launched the product. So it's actually quite vital that you spend a lot of time testing and tweaking and getting everything perfected. Um, but it's a tricky process because it doesn't always work out, and it's sometimes a bit frustrating if you can't get it to work because it's such a cool idea, and then you have to scrap it and start all over again. But that's a clear sign that it's not meant to be.
Yeah. No, it's new stuff, is really cool to have. And, stuff that hasn't hit the market yet. Just, yeah, it's a learning process for a company to manufacture something completely from scratch. And it might not work for every single setup. I know there's a few things that with my Arxos dialed site, I shot a few ideas over to Taylor and they were like, "Oh, we haven't seen this yet." It was just strictly due to the pick rail mount one, and I'm like, "Well, maybe I did something wrong, but this is what I ran into," and they were super appreciative. Like, "Oh, sweet, okay, we might be a 75% success, but that one guy, that Braxton, that just completely screws it all up, just needs something special." So, I think trying to get a product that's going to work best and fit everybody is is what everybody's shooting for sure. And I think it's just a lot of trial and error as far as getting it to that point.
We went through that with the thumb pegs that Hanno designed for the Carter releases too. We had an initial design that his brother and I were running for months, and I don't even think we really planned to bring it to market. And then when we did, it was loosening up on some guys because part of it was Carter actually changed the finish on some of their arms for their releases, so it was more slippery. And so we had to go back to the drawing board on that. And sometimes that's part of the process, and that's one of the cool things. I know it's frustrating, as an end user sometimes when things are getting updated, but I think that also goes to show you have to find that middle ground of you're making updates, because I mean why does Dialed exist? Because we've all been complaining about the same stuff about sites forever, right? So I mean Hanno and you guys have been doing a good job of I've seen the Vulcans evolve over the years, and it's cool to see. So I'm stoked to see what this next generation is.
Yeah.
So with the next generation, what I can give away so long as I really want to do away with the clear coat on the carbon, and then just run a raw carbon tube. Remove all the stickers and the labeling, and then just have something a bit sleeker. And then I still need to find a way on how to put it on the aluminium end cap, so that we obviously keep our branding on. But essentially something a bit more sleeker is on its way. It will help us save a lot of time. It will actually also help me save on some workshop space. It will require less tools. So I think you can't be satisfied with what you have now, and then obviously coming back to the manufacturing in-house, like with the thumb pegs, if we didn't manufacture those small parts in-house, then we wouldn't be able to respond to the changing in finishing that fast, which I think is it's quite vital in terms of keeping the product updated and running at an optimal level. Obviously, if you have an inferior product, you're just going to piss off a lot of guys who paid hard-earned money for something that doesn't work. But also, I want to make the product evolve enough so that they can feel this is enough to justify upgrading his current setup, so that there's a real improvement in performance. Let's say it's vibration dampening, or the stabilizer is 50% lighter, or whatever the case might be. That's something that I'm aiming for. And then obviously, if it works, then don't change it. It's you're only gonna break it down further from there if you don't have a proper solution or something to replace it with. I think listening to the guys, what they struggle with, and then going back testing that yourself. I also spoke to AJ just before the podcast. We had a few guys telling me the V3X 33-inch axle-to-axle Matthews bow puts a lot of strain and vibration onto the stabilizer system, and that's literally something that I'm looking into right now, to try and see if we can develop the tube to be in sync with the harmonics of this longer bows. I think what I could find yesterday was the riser on the V3X, the 33-inch model, is almost the same length as on the TRX 38 target bow, which is an insanely long riser for a hunting bow. So obviously it's not as stiff as the shorter risers, and that also translates a bit more vibration. But that's something that you have to deal with on the fly, because the guys are buying those bows. They want to put our setups on it, and I also wanted to feel like you are shooting a 29-inch bow with little to none vibration on. So yeah, I think it's important, and I told AJ yesterday we made another change on the Quattro thumb pegs, moving from the metric threads to the imperial threads it's enormous for me, because we couldn't get the right screws and stuff to be in stock at the right time. And yeah, finally we found guys who can supply us the parts and stuff. So yeah, I think I can save a few guys a headache or two having to deal with that Allen key getting lost, or just having the correct size screws that can fit with your normal Allen key. It's something so small, but it's important to me that everything functions flawlessly. So that's what my mind is on, and if it's not in that state, then I don't want to sell it. It's only going to cause me a lot of trouble in the future.
Yeah, I never gave thought about manufacturing with metric and standard stuff. America's just a weird country that we just had to make up our own measuring systems, so it makes it difficult for everybody else around the world.
It's I've seen something the other day on Instagram where they said the Americans will do anything in their power to avoid the metric system. Like they will go like this whale is 2 football fields long, instead of just saying, listen, this thing is like 50 meters or whatever the case might be. But I also, from an engineering point of view, I also heard a guy say, we successfully landed a spacecraft on the moon with the Imperial system. So what does the metric system want to say now? But it's, a thread is a thread for me. It's just it's really hard for us to get all the proper sizes and the lengths of these bolts and stuff here in South Africa, being completely switched over to metric. So that's another hurdle that I'll get out of my way when I'm moving to the States. I know there's a lot of guys asking me, and it's such a simple part, but it's just a 1.5-inch stainless steel grub screw. It's so scarce to find from the suppliers, and they are forcing me to like order 10,000 of them right off the bat, and that's way too much than for what we need. I think that's a lifetime of screws if you take that quantity. But yeah, it's I think once you get to the States, that will be an issue of the past.
Well, Hanno, man, appreciate you coming on, man. We can't wait for you to get to the States, and look forward to your U.S. tour that you got coming up, and can't wait to see you, brother.
Thanks, AJ. Thanks, you guys, for having me. And yeah, I will definitely bring you something that is well, let's say I'll bring you something over that is very unique to Africa, something other than archery equipment, stuff like that, so that you can get a taste of what we have on this side. So I'll definitely let you guys know when I'm coming over, because obviously I do not want to pitch in front of your door, but then you're busy with a tax shoot in a different state or something like that. So I'll definitely talk to you guys before I head over.
Absolutely.
I hope it's biltong.
It's even better. It's even better.
Well, thanks again, Hanno. And
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Braxton.
No, you're good. I was going to say we appreciate your time. Absolutely. We know you're busy and making things happen there at Quattro, so we appreciate every minute we can get with you, and appreciate all the advice and nerding out on stabilizers and what we can do to be better at archery, and whether it's target archery or hunting. So yeah, we can't have too many of you guys, so we need to nerd out on the Bow Nerds podcast.
I'll be happy to do it again.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody for
Awesome.
listening, and we'll catch you guys next time.